Hello everyone and welcome back to ASP.NET Core 1.0. My name is Steve Bishop, and in this video we're going to talk about upgrading from Release Candidate 1 to Release to Manufacturing. So the RTM builds, or Release to Manufacturing builds, are essentially the public release of ASP.NET Core, and it's the one that you are supposed to be able to start to build your applications for the enterprise environments off of this RTM build. Up to this point, everything I've shown you, however, has been something that you could do in RC1 to RC2 all the way up through RTM. This was primarily because when I first started this series, actually RC2 had just been released, but I wasn't yet fully brought up to speed on RC2 yet, so I didn't want to start getting into some of those more in-depth things until we could actually show you the RTM build, the one that you guys are going to be able to build your applications on and feel confident that it's going to be stable and that it's going to be supported by Microsoft. Now I do have a how-to video on how to upgrade from RC1 to RC2 that you're more than welcome to take a look at. And if you have an application built in RC2, the process to go from RC2 to RTM is very straightforward. You just have to download and install the packages that I will show you in this video. But the conversion from RC1 to RTM is much more drastic. And you can certainly try to follow along with the RC1 to RC2 video that I did in the how-to section, and that is essentially identical to what you would do in RTM, just with a different set of software that you're going to download. But while I was trying to go through the process of upgrading our application from RC1 to RTM that we've been working out of, the Contoso application, I discovered a lot of little problems along the way that just took several hours of research to find the solution and find the answer on what was wrong and how to fix it. And I just felt like there's got to be a better way than to try to find and hunt down all of these issues. And really there is, but it's a bit of a drastic measure. So I'm going to take you guys through what I would do in pretty much 99% of all the circumstances that you need to upgrade from RC1 to RTM. For those other 1%, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to have a long struggle with trying to find how to fix all those little errors. But anyway, so what we're going to do in this video is download and install Visual Studio 2015 Update 3. We're then going to download and install the new .NET Core 1.0 RTM release. Then we're going to create a new .NET Core project, okay? And this is the drastic measure that I've been kind of hinting at, where we're actually going to create a brand new project, and then we're going to copy the models, views, and the controller folders from our original application to the new project. Really, this is the route that I think is going to alleviate the majority of the headaches you're going to have when you try to do the conversion. You're going to have some namespacing issues you're going to have to take care of, but other than that, this is probably the simplest, easiest, fastest way to get your project converted from RC1 to RTM. So then we're going to modify our startup.cs class services and configuration, and we'll also go through and fix some of those namespacing issues because RC1 had some different namespaces than the RTM build. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into our environment and download the appropriate installs so that we can go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to suggest to you is make sure you've installed all the Windows Update patches and make sure that they've not only been installed, but you've rebooted your computer after they've been installed, because there's nothing worse than trying to go and install some sort of update or package only to be told, oh, we can't do this right now because your computer's pending a restart. So I would just go ahead and make sure you get that out of the way, make sure you restart your computer, and you're starting with a fresh running version of Windows. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and open up your browser and go to asp.net/core. And from here, you could just click on the Install ASP.NET Core Get It Now green button here, or you could also go to the Downloads tab here, and under Visual Studio and Frameworks, you'll see ASP.NET Core. And both that link that you saw on the main page and this link here will take you to the same page. Now from here, depending upon which version of OS you're running, you could actually run or install .NET Core on Windows, Linux, Mac, or Docker. I'm going to go ahead and choose Windows because obviously that's what I'm running right now. And on Windows, you'll see that we need to install Visual Studio 2015 Update 3 first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this link. And down here it says download Visual Studio Update 3. So I'm going to click on this link now. And I'm going to go ahead and run the installation package. It should be called VS2015.3. That is assuming you are all using Visual Studio and you need to get Update 3. Just as a side note, if you just recently downloaded the Community Edition of 2015, I believe Update 3 just comes with it, so you don't have to worry about this step. So after some time, we finally get the features screen here where we can select which features that we want. We just really need the Visual Studio 2015 Update 3 to be selected. Now you can go through here and add additional things or take away some of the features that you may already have installed in your Visual Studio Community instance, but just so long as you have this Visual Studio 2015 Update 3 selected. And I would also suggest that you're going to want to get the Visual Studio Extensibility Tools Update 3 as well. Make sure that Update 2 is not selected. You want the Extensibility Tools Update 3. So once those are selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And it looks like it's just saying it's going to tell me how much space it needs. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Update button. And I'm going to approve through user account control. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here. And once we get to the next page that's important to show you, I will resume the video. So the setup is finally completed. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the update screen. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the back button now to go back to the page that we were just at. And now I'm going to click on the link that will take us to the actual .NET Core 1.0 for Visual Studio download. So let's go ahead and click on that now. And I'm going to go ahead and run the application. Now, if when you try to run the setup, you get this error message that it's detected that Windows Update 3 may not be completely installed, there's actually a bypass that you're going to have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and now I'm going to open a command prompt by typing CMD, or you can do command, and you're going to want to do command prompt, and I would even go so far as to open this and run this as administrator, just in case. Now you're going to want to go to the folder location that you downloaded the setup file to. So for me, that's going to be in my users folder. And under my downloads folder is where I place the file. And you can see I can navigate here. And I'm looking for, I'm just going to do the .NET Core 1.0.0. So this is always fun trying to see simultaneously here. We're going to do .NET Core 1.0. And that's a hyphen VS2015 tools.preview2.exe. And then at the end, you're going to want to put this skip underscore VSU underscore check equals 1. And this is passing in a parameter to the executable that's going to bypass that error screen. So we'll go ahead and hit enter. And now you can see that we get welcome to the Microsoft.NET Core Visual Studio Preview 2 setup. So we no longer get that error, and I can go ahead and install. Once again, I'll go ahead and pause the video here, and as soon as we get a screen that you need to take a look at, I will resume the video. So we're finally done with the installation of the Tooling Preview 2 of the .NET Core installation here. So let's go ahead and close out of the install. We don't need the command prompt anymore, and I don't need to know where my downloads folder is. And we should be now set to go ahead and create a new ASP.NET Core application. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Visual Studio. And now I'm going to create a new project. And from here, you could either select the ASP.NET Core Web Application with .NET Core. You could also do the ASP.NET Core Web Application with the .NET Framework. And the difference between these two is that the .NET Core is just going to be the core architecture, whereas the .NET Framework is going to give you everything. So you're going to have access to the full .NET library that comes with Windows, whereas the .NET Core is more or less tailored to being portable to those other operating systems like OS X and Linux, etc. So you can even see over here in the description that the .NET Core is for being able to use across Linux and OS X, but as for here, you don't have that same cross-platform. So you can select the ASP.NET Core Web Application.NET Core, which is what I'm going to use. You could also go to this subfolder here and go to the same ASP.NET Core Web Application.NET Core. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this to Contoso Core RTM. And that way I have a distinction between the two projects, between the old Contoso project and the RTM edition. So let's go ahead and do that and click OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and use an empty ASP.NET Core template, but you could of course use a web application which would give you all of the views and controllers and basically set you up with some authentication and all that good stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and use an empty core template and click OK. So at first it's going to restore all of the packages that come from NuGet. So go ahead and let that proceed through. And if you want to look at the details, you can click on the output link and that'll give you the little output window here to show you the progress. So once all the packages have been restored, we can go ahead and close the welcome window. And I just want to show you in the startup class that now we have basically a blank startup class. We don't have any of the things that we had in our old project, and that's actually what we want. We're kind of going to want to start with a blank slate here. Now you will notice that the main method has disappeared from the startup class. And those of you who watch my RC1 to RC2 video already recognize that this is what's going to happen. The main method has actually been moved to the program class. And in the program class, we have this new thing called a web host builder. And the web host builder is where we're going to set a lot of these using statements for what is actually going to be used by the host. The two key ones that I want to hone in here are the use Kestrel and use IIS integration. These have been moved to extension methods on the web host builder class. So just make sure that this is where you're seeing that. You don't want to use the IIS integration as a middleware anymore in the configuration and in the services. Now I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the folder that contained the old Contoso project. So I'm going to go to C drive, users, my folder, documents, Visual Studio 2015, projects, and under Contoso, I'm going to go to the SRC folder. And in the SRC folder, we have the Contoso, which is the project. And now, in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my controllers, models, view models, and views. And I could select the properties too, but I don't really need those. I just need to make sure I get the core components of the application. That's the controllers, models, views, and view models. Also, if you have any sort of JavaScript or anything like that that's in your www root, you're going to want to get those individually and place them under the www root of your new project. But for right now, I'm just going to copy these 4 folders. And now I'm going to navigate back to my projects folder on my Visual Studio 2015. And I'm going to go to this new Contoso Core RTM. And under the SRC folder, then the Contoso Core RTM project, and now I can go ahead and paste those 4 folders back into this new project. You should see them appear now over here in your Solution Explorer. Now we have controllers, models, view models, and views. Now we do need to configure the MVC middleware on our new application because it's not currently set up to use the MVC middleware. So we're going to need to go to our configure services method, and we're going to do services.add MVC. And right now, it's not a part of the system. We need to go ahead and bring in the dependency. So we're going to go ahead and add the package and make sure you're getting the Microsoft ASP.NET Core.MVC 1.00. You do not want to get the old one. This package ASP.NET.MVC 6.00 RC1 final, that is not the one that you want. You want to get the one that is the 1.00. Okay, so that's the one we're going to select. Just going to wait a moment here while we restore the MVC packages. And again, we can click on the output link to see that adding MVC to our project is just basically happening automatically here when we added that MVC package. Okay, so now that everything's been added in our NuGet packages, we now see that the add MVC extension method is perfectly fine. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to comment out this app run. And if you want to, you can also comment out this logger factory and is development environment stuff. If you want to comment everything that's inside of the current configuration, you're more than welcome to do so. And now I'm just going to go down here, and in the configuration, I'm going to go ahead and do app use MVC, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the with default route. You could, of course, set those routes like we have in the past, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the with default routes. Now, on almost all of my classes, I was using the original namespacing. So if we look at, say, our controllers, and we go to the home controller, we'll see that we still are using the Microsoft.ASP.NET.MVC, and this is no longer a valid namespace. So I'm going to go ahead and do an organize usings, remove and sort usings, and then I'm just going to right-click on controller. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to do a control period on controller, excuse me, and that's going to say using Microsoft ASP.NET Core.MVC, and this is the one that we're going to want. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and that will bring in the using that we need in order to make this controller work. We're going to need to do the same thing over here for member home controller, but I can also show you that rather than knowing where each one of these is, you can go ahead and just simply do a build, and your error list will show you where all of those locations are that your namespaces are incorrect. So it looks like the type or namespace of ASP.NET does not exist in the namespace, so I'm just going to go ahead and double click on this error, and that will take me right to the class that's incorrect. And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and remove and sort, and then do a control period on controller, and that will then ask me to use the correct namespace for the MVC. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back to my error list, and we can see that we have no more errors. Let's go ahead and try running our application and see if this works. And it looks like everything does work exactly how it's supposed to, and we've been upgraded now to the RTM edition of ASP.NET Core. Now, if you have any troubles from where we started to where this screen is, and you're getting some sort of error or some sort of issue down here when you try to run your application, I'm going to tell you that the best resource I have found, well, there's actually two really good resources for trying to diagnose these issues. Number one is, of course, the ever popular Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is full of a lot of very knowledgeable people who are willing to assist you. But if you want to go directly to the source, the people who are actually creating the code, then you can actually go ahead and just do a search for ASP.NET Core, and if you do GitHub, GitHub is where the repository for the ASP.NET Core is being built at. So you can actually go directly to the source, to the developers, and ask your questions there. You can also raise issues here. So if you have an issue, you can go ahead and click on the issues and add it. So not only can we go to the core.net, but also MVC has their own GitHub repository. So if you do core MVC GitHub and do a search for that, you'll also find the ASP.NET MVC group is available as well. And this is really good for all of the MVC related issues that you may encounter. And typically, even if it's just an ASP.NET Core issue, they're pretty good about responding to them and giving you solutions, or at least linking you to the to related issues from the original Core crew. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this upgrade completed and that everything is working on the application that we've been doing. Because when we start to get into the entity framework, this is very important that you are upgraded to the RTM edition, since we're going to be using Entity Framework Core and not Entity Framework 7, which came with RC1 and used the DNX executable. This is going to actually be using the .NET executable instead when we start working with Entity Framework, and we're going to be needing to use the NuGet Package Manager console. So anyway, that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave me those in the comment section of this video. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe to my channel.